But there's some other significant pressures coming down the line for Facebook as well, particularly in terms of Google's decision to block third-party cookies.
Yeah, I think that they've talked about pretty succinctly on their earnings call that they have, they're going to see more headwinds ahead of them relative to what they've already seen. I think something that we had missed and a lot of the street had was when Apple had introduced iOS in Q4, they actually had started to see some loss of signal with regards to location-based data. I think that Google basically rolling out the changes on February 4th, obviously a big change in terms of what could happen with regards to their access to signal. And one of the things that really turned our head, that pushed us over the edge to go ahead and downgrade, was Facebook the following day going ahead and saying they were going to pull back pretty dramatically on the Facebook Audience Network. Now, it's not that actually has a huge revenue contribution or huge margin contribution, but we thought was basically an admission of they recognize they're going to lose signal and they're trying to get ahead of this.
Michael, I want to come and take a look at a chart here that I'm showing inside my terminal. You've mentioned this a few times, the valuation. Facebook, frankly, looked cheap because of the multiple compression that you've really seen going back 5 years. 2019 really was supposed to be the investment year. 2020, expectations for this company coming into this year were so high. What did you hear on that call that made you downgrade now to a sell from a hold and sort of rethink this thesis?
A couple things, Taylor. We were talking to quite a few large agencies, large advertisers, other publishers over the course of the last week and change. So for us, it was basically seeing a combination of the fan announcement. We heard from a couple of the large advertisers that they thought this was really a sea change. And yes, they're very smart. They'll be able to find some degree of workaround, but you're going to unquestionably have some degree of degradation in terms of signal. So taking a look again at the what they had basically said on the earnings call, and and to boot, we actually had a note out talking about we deemed it as cookie apocalypse on Monday, and had quite a few conversations with with folks across the industry. And for what it's worth, in terms of our downgrade, we had some pushback from investors citing the stock as being cheap. We actually really did not have a lot of pushback at all from our industry participants, which is a pretty sizable amount of our distribution at Pivotal.
So by page 5, I finally figure out how to say the word cookie apocalypse. And then page 6, we get to DTC implosion, that direct to consumer. Correct. What is the shifting trends in advertising within DTC?
It's hard to say. I know Facebook's comment has generally been, look, we've got 8 million advertisers, and we don't think it's a huge part of their revenue base. Our estimate was around 5 to 8% of U.S. advertising revenue, so it's a few $1 billion. But if we look at the tea leaves over the course of the last 6 months, you see the WeWorks implosion. The fact that Casper actually, got out the door, to us was a suggestion that they really had no other options. I can't envision the bankers were saying, we think this deal is actually going to go over well. And this was a company that was valued at $1 billion and north of that in March of 2019. So I just feel like if you put together a number of the signposts, I think a lot of these companies who are big advertisers on Facebook don't really have great underlying unit economics. So we think the rationalization is really inevitable. And what we think could be one of the additional prompts that pushes this rationalization is if ROIs decline on Facebook, that's an important channel for them. Maybe this is another thing that leads the funders of them to say, you know what? Aside from hopefully somebody purchasing us on an EV to sales multiple, I don't know if this is a good business for us to be continuing to plow money into.